You might be listening to this on a melancholic autumn evening, in that particular darkness that arrives earlier each day, maybe alone, in the quiet, surrounded by a nostalgia you can't quite name. Maybe you're trying to remember a face, someone from years ago whose features have blurred, but whose presence you can still feel. Or maybe you're just noticing how the light has changed, how something shifted in the air today. Either way, you're here because autumn does something to you that other seasons don't. You know that moment when autumn first arrives. Not on the calendar, not when someone tells you it's officially fall, but that morning when you step outside and the air has changed. It's cooler, yes, but that's not it. It's the quality of it, the weight, the way it touches your face differently than it did yesterday. And something in you shifts. It's not dramatic. You don't announce it to anyone, but you feel it. A kind of settling, like you've been holding your breath for months and suddenly, quietly, you can exhale. The light is different now. Lower, softer, golden in a way summer's brightness never was. It comes through windows at an angle you forgot about, slanting across floors and walls with a tenderness that makes you stop whatever you're doing just to watch it. And when it hits a wall or a table or your hand, you remember. Not a specific memory, just you remember. The feeling of this, the way autumn light used to fall in rooms you lived in years ago, bedrooms from childhood where you'd lie on the floor doing homework while the sun moved across the carpet, libraries from university where you'd look up from a book and notice the day had changed color. Apartments you barely think about anymore, where this exact light once made you feel something you can't quite name. And with the light comes everything else. The smell of rain on dry pavement after months of heat. The first morning you need a jacket, and your hands find the pockets like they're remembering too. And maybe, in one of those pockets, your fingers touch something. A receipt from last January, a ticket stub from February, a small stone you picked up on a winter walk you'd forgotten. Something from the last time you wore this jacket, the last time the world was cold, and for a moment, winter and autumn touch across time. But in a reversed way, you time travel. You're standing in September holding evidence of January, moving backward while moving forward. The season that's coming is already in your pocket, waiting to remind you it's happened before. The sound of wind in trees that are just beginning to turn, leaves not quite ready to fall but no longer holding on the way they did in summer. The way evenings arrive earlier now, pulling the day closed before you expected it to end, wrapping the world in that particular blue hour that exists nowhere else but autumn. You don't just notice these things, you feel them deeply, like they're speaking directly to something inside you that's been waiting all summer to be spoken to. And underneath all of it, quiet, persistent, almost sweet in its ache, is nostalgia. Not for anything in particular, just nostalgia. For autumns past, for Septembers when you were younger, for the person you were the last time the light looked exactly like this. If you're a deep intuitive, if you're an introspective soul attracted to the complex layers of reality, driven by intuition's power to see behind surfaces and timelines, if you've always lived more in your inner world than the outer one, if you've always felt things others seem to miss, autumn doesn't just arrive around you, it arrives in you, and when it does, something wakes up. There's something about September that's never quite left you. Even now, years after school, years after university, September still feels like beginning, like the real new year. January never convinced you the way September does. September smells like possibility, like new notebooks with clean pages, like sharpened pencils and unmarked calendars, like you could become someone different this year if you wanted to. You remember that feeling, walking into school on the first day of autumn, the hallways smelling like floor wax and paper, everyone wearing clothes that still felt new, still carried the tag's creases, the air outside still warm, summer not quite gone, but promising cold. Everything ahead of you, everything still possible. The sun was still there in September, still strong enough to warm your back during lunch, still bright enough to make you squint. But different now, softer, kinder. The light had changed its mind about what it wanted to be. And maybe, if you're honest with yourself, maybe there was someone you'd been thinking about all summer, wondering if they'd changed, if they'd remember you, if this year would be different. Someone who only existed in that world, the world of school, of shared classes, of hallways between periods. Your only link to them was September's return. The only time you'd see them was when autumn brought you back to the same building, the same schedule, the same possibility of your paths crossing in ways that felt both random and destined. You were just beginning to understand your body then, the way it was changing, the way certain people made you feel things you'd never felt before. Physical things, yes, but also something deeper. Something you experienced internally but couldn't name. A kind of ache that had nothing to do with pain and everything to do with wanting, with the strange vertigo of realizing another person could matter this much. And it was always autumn when these feelings crystallized. Always September when you'd see them again. and feel your heart do something it hadn't done all summer. But September is not November. September still holds light, still carries summer's warmth in its bones even as it lets the cold creep in at the edges. September is threshold, neither summer nor autumn but something between, a promise, a beginning. November is different. By November the light is almost gone, the trees are bare or nearly so. The warmth has left completely, and what remains is the hard truth of what's coming. Winter, months of cold, months of darkness, the year dying in earnest now, no longer pretending otherwise. November is when you feel the full weight of autumn's melancholy, when you're no longer standing at the threshold, but have crossed it completely, when you can see the long darkness ahead and know there's no avoiding it. And even though you're not in school anymore, even though September is just another month now, you still feel it, that pull, that sense of starting, of the year truly beginning now that summer's brightness has faded and you can think clearly again. Because summer was hard, wasn't it? Not in ways you could explain to people. Summer is supposed to be easy, supposed to be fun, supposed to be the time when everyone comes alive. But for you, summer felt like noise, too bright, too demanding, too much expected extroversion, too many social obligations, too much performance of enjoyment you didn't quite feel. The heat pressed on you. The endless light felt invasive. Everyone wanted you outside, doing things, being social, when all you wanted was quiet and darkness and the permission to disappear into your own thoughts. You managed it. You always do. But underneath you were tired. Tired of the brightness, tired of the heat, tired of feeling like you should be out there when all you wanted was to be in here, in your own mind, in your own silence. And then autumn came, and you could finally breathe. The world doesn't demand the same things in autumn. People settle into quieter rhythms. Social expectations ease. It becomes acceptable, normal even, to stay in, to read, to think, to spend evenings alone without anyone questioning why. Autumn gives you permission to be what you've always been. Inward, reflective, comfortable with silence and solitude, and the long, slow work of thinking deeply about things that matter. You don't have to pretend anymore. You can just be. And with that permission comes the nostalgia. It arrives without warning. You'll be walking somewhere ordinary, to your car, through a park, down a street you've walked 100 times, and suddenly you're somewhere else. Not literally. You're still here, but inside you're in a different October, a different autumn. You're 15 again, walking home from school, wondering if they noticed you in class today. You're 22, sitting in a library as rain hits the windows, pretending to study but really just feeling the particular quality of that afternoon. The warmth inside, the cold outside, the sense of being suspended between worlds. You're 7, jumping in leaf piles, the world impossibly large around you, every autumn a small eternity. The memory isn't clear. You can't see faces or remember conversations, but you can feel it, the exact texture of that moment, the quality of light, the particular silence of that afternoon, the sense of who you were then, what you wanted, what you thought the world might hold for you. And maybe, woven through it all, you remember a love that ended in autumn, as if the universe had orchestrated it that way, as if the relationship was always meant to fall with the leaves, to fade with the light, to become one more beautiful thing that couldn't survive the coming winter. You remember how it felt both devastating and right, how even in the heartbreak there was something almost mythic about it, the way the world around you seemed to mirror what was happening inside you, everything dying at once, everything letting go, everything preparing for the long cold ahead. And now, years later, when October comes and the light hits a certain way, you remember them, not clearly, not their face or their voice or even their name sometimes, but the feeling of them, the particular ache they left behind, the way loving them felt like part of the season itself, temporary, beautiful, touched by melancholy from the very beginning. You wonder sometimes if they remember too, if autumn does this to them, if they're walking down some street in a different city, feeling the air change, and suddenly they're back there with you, in that October or November when everything fell apart as gently as leaves. This is what people don't understand when they talk about nostalgia. They think it's about wanting the past back. But that's not what you feel. You feel recognition, like autumn is showing you something true about yourself. Something that doesn't change year to year, even as everything else does. Some essential quality of you that exists outside of time. That was there when you were young and is still here now, and will be here in every autumn to come. Autumn reminds you who you are underneath everything else, underneath the roles you play, the person you've learned to be in the world. Autumn strips that away, gently, quietly, and shows you the self that's been there all along. The self that feels deeply, that thinks in images and symbols. that finds meaning in the slant of afternoon light and the sound of wind in almost bare branches. The self that has always been a little melancholic, a little apart, a little more comfortable with darkness than brightness, with ending than beginning, with the complicated truth than the simple lie. You're not nostalgic for the past. You're nostalgic for yourself, for the part of you that autumn always reveals. And there's something else, something about autumn's particular darkness that affects you differently than winter ever does. Winter is dark, colder, harder. The days are shorter, the nights longer. By all logic, winter should be the season that weighs on you most. But it isn't, is it? Winter feels almost easier, because winter is already dark, it's arrived. It's here. The darkest days, the longest nights, they're present, real. And somehow in winter you can feel spring waiting on the other side. Distant maybe, but there. February is hard, but you know March is coming. You can see the end of the darkness even while you're in it. Autumn is different. Autumn is when you see the darkness coming. You're standing at the edge of it, looking forward into months of cold and dark and bare trees and grey skies. It's all ahead of you, all still potential. And for you, someone who has always lived as much in potential as in reality, who has always felt the future as intensely as the present, that hits harder. You don't just experience October. You experience October and November and December and January all at once. The whole long season of darkness unfolds in your mind before it's even arrived. You can feel its weight already. You can see exactly how it will be. This is autumn's melancholy. Not the darkness itself, but the foreshadowing of it, the knowing, the seeing what's ahead. And somehow that melancholy is heavier, sweeter, stranger than winter's actual darkness ever is. It's the melancholy of threshold, of standing between, of saying goodbye to light while the light is still here, of feeling the end of something before it's ended. And it's exactly you, isn't it? You see what's coming more clearly than what's already here, dear deep intuitive. You can handle most troubles once they arrive. You face them with strength and courage, but the troubles that may come, the ones still forming in the distance, those are the ones that weigh on you. Those are the ones you carry. And you don't run from it, you never have. While others are trying to hold on to summer, squeezing out the last warm days, pretending autumn isn't here yet, you're walking directly into it, welcoming it, letting it settle over you like a familiar coat. Because this melancholy isn't depression, it isn't something wrong. It's depth. It's the feeling of being fully alive to the complexity of things, to the fact that beauty and sadness aren't opposites, that something can be ending and still be precious, that you can feel loss and gratitude at the same time. You remember well that quote from Victor Hugo, "Melancholy is the happiness of being sad," that you read years ago and thought it was just a clever paradox. But now, walking through October, you finally understand. This ache isn't suffering, it's richness, the capacity to feel the full weight of time, of beauty, of ending and beginning at once, the happiness of being sad enough to be fully alive. You find yourself wondering, did Camus feel more of a stranger in autumn than in summer? Or is it only you? And then you remember, he wrote about autumn in Algeria, how it felt like exile from the brightness everyone else lived in, how he recognized himself in November's melancholy more than June's celebration. You weren't alone in this after all. Even across decades, across countries, someone else knew. And maybe that's what brings you comfort. The universe itself is dark now. The world is turning cold. The trees are letting go. The light is dying. The whole earth is moving into shadow. For once, for this one season, you can point outside yourself and say, it's not just me. It's not just your internal melancholy, your tendency toward depth, your comfort with complexity and contradiction. It's the world now. The universe itself designed like this, deep, cold, touched by darkness. And that brings a strange relief, doesn't it? You're not broken for feeling this way. You're not too sensitive, too dark, too much in your head. You're simply aligned with what the universe is doing. You're in sync with the season. Your internal landscape finally matches the external one. The universe is showing multiple colors now, some soft like amber and rust, others dark like bare branches against grey sky. And in that coldness, every small light makes a difference. A candle in a window, a lamp in the early evening, the warm glow from inside a cafe as rain falls outside. You understand this instinctively. You've always known that light means nothing without darkness. That warmth only matters when there's cold to contrast it. That comfort only exists in relation to discomfort. And autumn is built exactly like you are. It's non-linear like your mind. Time doesn't move in a straight line in autumn. It loops and layers, pulling past into present, making you exist in multiple Octobers at once. Just like how your thoughts work, how you've never experienced time as a simple progression from A to B, but as something more complex, more layered, more simultaneous. It's transitional, like your intuition, always between states, never fully one thing or another, always in the process of becoming something else. This is how your mind works too, always bridging between what is and what could be, always sensing the potential in every moment, always aware of what's emerging from what exists. It's built for solitude and introspection, like your introversion. The shorter days, the longer nights, the quieter world, all of it creating natural conditions for turning inward, for thinking, for feeling, for the slow, deep work that can only happen in silence and darkness. Autumn is the season that structurally mirrors who you are. It's designed the way you're designed. And for once, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify your need for quiet, your comfort with melancholy, your preference for depth over superficial brightness. You can simply point to the season and say, "See, the universe understands." Or simpler still, how can you not be melancholic with this weather? And everyone understands. No explanation needed. No justification required. Your inner state finally matches what everyone can see outside the window. And here's something strange that might reveal the deepest truth of all. You might even find yourself nostalgic for the summer you hated. Do you remember it? How oppressive it felt, how exhausting, how desperate you were for it to end. The heat that pressed on you, the brightness that felt like an interrogation, the constant expectation to be out there, to be on, to perform a version of yourself that never quite fit. You couldn't wait for it to be over. And yet now, walking through the cold dark of late November, you catch yourself missing something about it. Not the summer itself. You still don't want to go back there, but the memory of it, the sensation of warm sunlight on your face, the way heat felt on your skin, that particular quality of July light you couldn't appreciate while you were drowning in it. You can hold both truths at once, relief that summer's gone, and a strange tender ache for its warmth, gratitude for autumn's darkness, and nostalgia for brightness you rejected, certainty that you belong to this season, and a gentle mourning for the one you escaped. This is what autumn does. It makes you nostalgic even for the things you couldn't wait to leave behind. And maybe this is the deepest reason autumn is truly your season. Not just the shared melancholy, though that matters. Not just the non-linear time, though you recognize yourself in it. Not just the living in potential, though that's how you've always existed. But this, autumn holds contradictions the way you do. It's dying and beautiful at once, ending and beginning, dark and radiant, melancholic and peaceful. It grieves summer while preparing for winter. It lets go while gathering inward. It's the saddest season and somehow the most comforting. It doesn't choose. It doesn't resolve the tension. It simply holds all of it. The contradictions, the paradoxes, the impossible simultaneity of opposing truths. Just like you. You've spent your whole life being told to choose, to be consistent, to resolve your contradictions, to decide if you're optimistic or pessimistic, social or solitary, thinking or feeling, here or somewhere else. But you've never been able to choose, have you? Because the truth is always more complex than that. You're both. You're all of it. You contain multitudes that seem like they shouldn't coexist, but somehow do. And autumn says, yes, this is right. This is how it should be. Autumn doesn't apologize for its contradictions. It doesn't try to be one thing. It's fully itself, complex, paradoxical, impossible to reduce to a single quality. And when you're in autumn, you can finally be fully yourself too. And you understand finally what Carl Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You see it now, not as theory, but as truth visible in every bare branch, every early evening, every moment you've stopped running from your own depth. And now the darkness becomes more conscious, not by adding light, but by deepening the dark. It's darker now than it was in September, and with each darkening day comes deeper introspective understanding of yourself and the world around you. And somewhere in that permission to hold contradictions, in that validation of complexity, in that relief of not having to choose, something else stirs. You start noticing that your hands want to create, not in a forced way, not like you're telling yourself you should be productive, but naturally, quietly, like the urge is rising from the same place the nostalgia came from. You want to write something, or draw something, or finally start that project you've been thinking about for months, or organize your thoughts in that way you do, making notes, connecting ideas, seeing patterns you couldn't see in summer's brightness. The earlier evenings help. When darkness comes at 5 instead of 8, you have hours of quiet, hours where the world has already settled, where no one expects anything from you, where you can disappear into your own mind without guilt. You make tea. The ritual of it matters now. Choosing the cup, waiting for the water to boil, the steam rising in the cool air. You light candles, maybe. Their small flames feel significant in autumn's darkness, in a way they never did in summer's endless light. You sit down with a notebook or a screen or whatever tool feels right. And you begin, and what comes out isn't what you expected. It's everything autumn has been showing you, the images that have been rising all month, that October light through the window, that memory of walking home from school, heart full of unnamed longing, that feeling of someone you loved and lost when the leaves were falling, that understanding you've been circling around without quite reaching, that sense of standing at the edge of winter, seeing the darkness ahead and feeling strangely ready for it. It all becomes material. The nostalgia, the melancholy, the threshold feeling, the darkness ahead, the comfort of shared shadow with the universe. It's all there, waiting to be shaped into something. And maybe you sense, without quite thinking it, that you're part of something older, that every poet who ever wrote about autumn darkness, every artist who ever painted October light, every writer who ever turned their melancholy into something beautiful, they were all doing exactly what you're doing now, in this same kind of evening, in this same kind of darkness, with this same ache transforming into creation. You're not inventing this. You're not pulling it out of nowhere. It's been accumulating inside you. All those nostalgic moments, all those images, all those feelings you've been holding, they were never just memories. They were seeds, waiting for the right conditions to become something else. And autumn created those conditions. The darkness that lets you see clearly instead of being blinded by brightness. The silence that lets you hear your own thoughts instead of drowning in noise. The permission to turn inward that validates what you've always needed. The melancholic consciousness that lets you hold complexity instead of forcing simplicity. You write, and it's like you're translating something, taking what exists in image and feeling and intuition and giving it words or form or structure, making the invisible visible, making the internal external. The words come in the same way the memories do, in layers, in atmospheres, in feeling tones. You're not constructing arguments or building logical progressions. You're trying to capture texture, the exact quality of a moment, the precise weight of a feeling. Hours pass and you don't notice. You're completely absorbed, not in a frantic way, in a flow way, like you've dropped into a rhythm that was always there, waiting for you to find it. Outside, rain might be falling, or wind moving through trees, or the first frost forming on windows, and it all feels like it's with you somehow, like the universe is creating alongside you. Like your small act of making something is part of autumn's larger work of transformation. This is what autumn does. It doesn't only give you ideas, it gives you access to the deeper parts of yourself where real work happens, where the things you truly want to say have been waiting quietly for you to have the space and silence and darkness necessary to hear them. And you realize, maybe not consciously but somewhere in your body, in your sense of rightness, that this is why you needed autumn, why you waited for it. Why summer's brightness felt wrong and autumn's darkness feels like home. Because this is when you come alive, not in the external visible way the world values, but in the internal invisible way that actually matters to you. This is when you do your real work, when you think your deepest thoughts, when you create the things that feel true instead of just competent or acceptable or good enough. The work you do in autumn isn't about productivity or achievement. It's about authenticity. About finally making something that sounds like your actual voice instead of the voice you've learned to use in the bright, loud world. And maybe, woven through what you create, are those people you once loved. Those autumns when your heart broke. Those Septembers when everything felt possible. Those Novembers when you learned to hold sorrow and beauty at the same time. They're all there, transformed into something new. No longer just memories, but material. Part of the larger work of becoming who you are. Autumn isn't the season when you retreat from life. It's the season when you finally live the life that's actually yours. So if you've been feeling it, that pull, that nostalgia, that melancholic sweetness, that urge to create something or begin something or reorganize everything you thought you understood, know that you're not alone in this. This is what autumn does to minds like yours, minds that live in depth, that see potential everywhere, that feel the future and the past as vividly as the present, that can't help but find meaning in things others dismiss as merely seasonal. You're not being overly sensitive. You're not being self-indulgent. You're not spending too much time in your head. You're responding to something real, something the season is offering you, something your psyche needs and has been waiting months to receive. The darkness coming isn't something to fear. It's something to use. The melancholy isn't something to fix. It's the consciousness you need to do deep work. The nostalgia isn't distraction, it's material, raw, rich, waiting to be transformed into something that matters. And the creative urge you're feeling, that's not random. That's not procrastination from real responsibilities. That's your truest self saying, now is when we work. Now is when we make something that matters. Now, while the conditions are right and the world is dark, and we can finally hear ourselves think. The universe itself is giving you permission. The trees are letting go. You can let go too. The light is fading. You can stop performing brightness. The world is turning inward. You can follow it home. So listen to it. Honor it. Give yourself the autumn you need. Make the tea. Light the candles. Open the notebook. Sit with the melancholy and let it show you what it's been carrying. Follow the images wherever they lead. Trust the nostalgia. It knows something you need to remember. Let the memories of old loves and lost autumns become part of what you create now. And let the darkness be exactly what it is. Not emptiness, but space. Space for depth. Space for truth. Space for the quiet, essential work of becoming more fully yourself. This is your season. This has always been your season. The universe is dark now, and so are you, and that's not a problem to solve. That's an alignment, a coming home, a recognition of what you've always known but couldn't always say. You were made for autumn, and autumn was made for you. If you're feeling that creative stirring, if you want to know how to work with the energy autumn is offering you, I've written an essay exploring the rituals and practices that can help you channel this season into something meaningful. You'll find it linked in the description. And if autumn feels like coming home to yourself, drop one word in the comments: home. So after everything we've explored, let me name them. The 8 reasons autumn is truly your season. 1. It gives you permission to withdraw when the world demanded you perform. 2. It reveals who you've always been beneath the masks. 3. You see the darkness coming, not just the darkness itself. 4. The universe shares your melancholy and you're finally not alone in it. 5. Time moves the way your mind does, layered, simultaneous, non-linear. 6. It's always transitional, always between, like your intuition. 7. It's built for solitude, and solitude is where you do your truest work. And 8. The deepest reason, autumn holds contradictions the way you do, without needing to resolve them. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel. There's more depth psychology content for deep intuitives coming. Welcome home.